Hey everybody, it's Sarah. I wanted to record this audio about Travis Scott, and I wanted to talk about some things that I think are important about this whole issue. Um, a lot of what I have to say is what other psychics and intuitives have been saying, so some of it is not new. Um, but even though it's not necessarily new, I do think it's important to talk about. And it's things that other psychics have been getting, but it's things that I've been getting too, as well, intuitively. Um, the first thing that I want to say is that the event organizers and the people that are above Travis Scott, they planned that event, Astro World, in a very particular way. They had a particular goal in mind. They had a particular agenda. The agenda was malicious from the very beginning. Um, and it's actually really sad if you think about it, the fact that there was this malicious agenda, when they were creating this concert. There are several factors that go into this. You have the type of music that's being played, you have the imagery, and everything kind of came together in a really malicious way. And it was all intentional, it was planned this way. When I first heard about the incident, I knew intuitively it was planned this way by certain powers that be. So I want to talk about Travis Scott, because it's a real fight for his soul right now. So I've seen photos of him when he was in high school, before he became famous and all of that. And what I could perceive from the photos, the intuitive and psychic feeling I was feeling from his photos of him in high school, was that he had a lot of light energy inside of him back then. And I also perceived, so as far as Travis Scott goes, the only things I know about him is that he grew up in Houston, Texas, and then he's with Kylie Jenner. Those are the only things I know about him. I don't think I've ever heard his music ever. But when I was looking at these photos of Travis Scott when he was in high school and kind of connecting with his energy psychically and intuitively, again, I could feel his light energy, but I also had certain words that popped up, like I'm confused, why is this happening, I'm scared. What I got intuitively is there's something that not something, there were many things that happened to him as a child that were very traumatic. One specifically with one of his uncles. I'm not going to go into specific details because it feels very personal, but there's something that happened when he was a child with one of his uncles that was not good. The other thing is that I get the intuitive sense that he grew up in a very dysfunctional and toxic family system, very dysfunctional and toxic environment, neighborhood, friends, a school situation, very, very toxic, very dangerous situation, very scary. And as a child, he was very scared. And unfortunately, there are certain powers that be, typically older white men in Hollywood, who really prey on young men of color who have come from very difficult childhoods and very difficult family homes. And I feel that's what happened with Travis Scott. Is certain evil powers that be could feel that this man was very vulnerable when he was young. I'm getting there's something about him being maybe even 18 years old, that he was there's certain people in Hollywood that might have found him when he was 18 years old, and he's been through a lot with this particular elite Hollywood bunch, and they have put him through a lot of difficult and abusive situations, and they have kind of forced his soul out of his physical body. Because what I'm feeling right now is there's a fight within him. There's a fight between his soul. So his soul, like his soul essence of who he really is actually trying to fight to come back into his physical body. But unfortunately, there's another spirit that is inside of his physical body right now that doesn't want to leave his physical body. But Travis Scott's soul, the core of who he is when he was a child, is pure. Okay, so this person is not evil. What's happened is a spirit has, through ritual work, has come inside of his physical body and is not allowing his true soul to be in his physical body for extended periods of time. Now, what I'm feeling is that sometimes his actual soul is able to come into his physical body temporarily, and then the evil spirit pushes it out. So we are talking about a man who was more or less possessed by a particular spirit that was put in his body through a ritual possession, okay, and through a ritual. So when we're talking about Travis Scott and we're talking about he's this, that, and the other, we need to understand that he is just a pawn in this game. He is, mid-level or whatever. There's people that are above him that have abused him and manipulated him, etc., who have a particular agenda. Now, I think the relationship he has with Kylie Jenner is very interesting because Kylie Jenner has a lot of light energy in her. Kylie Jenner is a healer, and in fact, Kylie Jenner was put into her family of origin to heal them. Kylie Jenner was meant to heal them. However, they were not all that interested in her healing and being healed by her. So that's why she loves being a mom, is she's able to put all of her healing energy and all of her love and all of her attention into her child, who obviously loves it. Children love their mothers and their fathers, healing them and being connected with them and all of that. So that's kind of why Kylie chose to have a baby so young, is that she needed a way to channel her healing energy, her loving energy, her light energy. But again, Kylie grew up in a very toxic and dysfunctional home and family system. Toxic in different ways than Travis Scott. Toxic in different ways, but both toxic. Both of these individuals have had very toxic and very traumatic childhoods, okay? So Kylie Jenner was put into her family of origin to help them heal, but they weren't all that interested in healing. Particularly her mom was not all that interested in healing. So Kylie has had to channel that energy in a different way. And the energy between Kylie and Travis Scott is very interesting. Because I do perceive Kylie Jenner as being this energy of light. I also perceive her to be incredibly vulnerable and susceptible to malicious people, and partly it's because she's been conditioned from a young age to accept malicious people from her parents and her family of origin, because her family of origin had a lot of malicious people in her life when she was a child growing up. So she's kind of been conditioned in a Pavlov dog kind of way to associate with malicious people with bad intentions. And so she's very easily manipulated by these malicious people, but herself at her core is light. Herself at her core is light. She's a light being. And yeah, her relationship with Travis Scott is really interesting because it's almost like she is wanting to save him. And it feels to me like there's some type of contract that they have, a past life contract, where she was said, I will help you, or I will save you, or this, that, and the other. I don't know if she can save him this lifetime. It's very dicey. The way that I feel about Travis Scott and his soul is very tricky. It's a very tricky situation. And there's lots of people involved. He has lots of handlers and lots of people around him. And it's very tricky. And he's also really controlled and manipulated by these handlers and by these other people around him that are malicious. So I don't know if Kylie will be able to heal him this lifetime. And the baby, Stormy, has a lot of light energy, a lot of healing energy. I even feel like Stormy could possibly be a starseed child or a crystal child. Again, very interesting, in my opinion. But yeah, I want people to understand that, well, number one, I want people to understand that Travis Scott is a victim in all this as well, because he's been oppressed and controlled and manipulated from the time he was like 18, 19, or 20 by certain malicious powers that be in Hollywood. So number one, he's a victim as well. Number two, a lot of these famous people do not have good intentions, and they do not have good intentions for humanity with their music. And so I want people to understand that they have to be very careful about what type of music that they listen to. So that's the other thing that I want people to understand, and I want people to recognize that the type of music that you listen to, the words that you think, everything that you consume is really important, and it affects your life. So I think that that's all that I want to say about the Travis Scott situation, with the concert, with the Astro World concert. But again, I want people to understand that this was planned to be malicious. There was malicious intentions from the very beginning of this concert. There was an agenda. There was an agenda to harm people and to hurt people. Okay? So if you're going to spend money, if you're going to go to concerts, just please be very careful. Be careful who you see live. Be careful who you listen to. Be careful what type of TV shows you watch and movies that you watch, etc., etc., etc. Please be very careful. Your brain is precious. Your soul is precious. And it's time for us to have more musicians and artists that are of love and light and healing in this planet. Okay, blessed be.